शङ्कर रक्ष मां शारदे पाहि मां 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 शङ्कर रक्ष माम्
शारदा शारदाम्बोज वदनां वदनाम्बुजे सर्वदा सर्वदास्माकं सन्निधिं क्रियात् सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् अज्ञानां जाह्नवीतीर्थं विद्यातीर्थं विवेकिनां सर्वेषां सुखदं तीर्थं भारतीतीर्थमाश्रये विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विदुशेखरभारतीं Sadguru Charanarvindabhyam Namaha. So welcome all to the lecture on the Dharma Shastra Nyaya Shastra series. Alwar Mahodaya, please continue from this. Thank you. Dhanyawad.
Just please give me 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Can you start?
Yeah, we can, please.
Namah Paramarishibhyo Namah Paramarishibhyah. Vishnum Bhasvat Kiritangadavalaya Gadakalpaharojjvalangam Shroni Bhusha Suvaksho Manimakutamaha Kundalair Manditangam Astodhyacchankachakram Bhujagadamaram Vitakoshe Yavasam Vidyotadbhasamudhyadinakarasadrisham Padmasamstham Namami Indriyanam Vishayattvameti Lokeshu Yattattvamatīndriyancha Snasya Tasya Pratipatti Hetuhu Vagdevata Samai Sannithattam. I am really happy once again to commence the lectures after a gap of 1 month. In fact, unfortunately, due to some unforeseen travel, I had to cancel the class last month. And I remember the class that was given in the month of January. So we continue with the lectures. Today we are going to see some final aspects about the most important and sometimes most trivial aspect of food. So after we deal with food and also the sleep aspects, which are most important aspects of human life, we then proceed to various what we call as anushtanams, or the traditional socio-religious practices. So some practices are associated with our physical hygiene, etc. Because Dharma Shastra talks about each and every aspect of human life. So for example, right from the moment you rise, how one should actually rise from the bed. So whether he should rise while actually turning to the right or to the left. After turning to the right or left, when he actually puts his feet on the floor for the first time, what should he say? So it is mentioned that he should say, Samudra Vasane Devi, Parvatastana Mandane. There is a Padasparshan Kshamasva. So when we actually step on the floor, we are actually stepping on the Mother Earth. So what should we tell the Mother Earth, or what should be the propitiatory verse that should be chanted at that time? So all these practices, one has to invariably step on the Mother Earth, because there is no other way. Because we have to actually move around, and the feet are the basic motor organs with which we move around. So if we have to do that, we have to step on the earth. And earth is our mother, we know that, because it is from earth that we are born. So we actually request her for excusing us that we are stepping on her with our feet. Because when you step on something with your feet, it means that you are degrading it. Suppose you want to degrade something, you just use your feet to discard it. So right from that moment until you go to sleep in the night, what are the practices to be followed? Why they are to be followed? What is the spirit behind it? Many of them have aspects of physical wellness as their aims. Others have spiritual wellness as their aims. And several other, like the social issues are involved, and ethical issues are involved. Some are done purely with an intention to show civilized behavior. So for example, when you take the aspect of eating, you can see the difference when a person who is totally uncivilized eats and when a well-educated person eats. So, though the act of taking the food inside the mouth and going inside is the same, the way a civilized person eats and uncivilized person eats is totally different. You can make out very easily. So I am going to explain in the course of these lectures the importance and also significance of the practices that we have to undertake, or rather it was ordained in those days to be undertaken by all human beings, especially human beings belonging to certain evolved classes. So today, I will, in today's lecture or the next lecture, I will conclude the aspects of food and also briefly touch upon the aspect of sleep. Because food and sleep are two aspects that are common to all beings in this world. So that's why it says, Ahara Nitra Bhayamaitunani Samanyametat Pashubhir Narana. Even what to say about beings, even it is common to plants also, because plants also sleep, as we can see, because the leaves actually they close like this in the night, and once again they open. So it is mentioned that plants also sleep, and it is a proven fact. I think there are scientific evidences to prove it. So food and sleep are two very, very, very basic aspects of all beings, all living beings, including plants, animals, and humans, etc. So once we have purity of food and purity of sleep, so what is purity of sleep? That also I will explain. Then what happens? Half the battle is won, because there are certain forces in this creation that are always attempting to pull the human being down. So if a person is very much fond of sugar, there is an instinct within him that he should be eating more and more and more sugar, though it may be detrimental to his health. So within ourselves, we say there is the Prakriti aspect which actually goads us to do something that may not be good for his physical health or spiritual health. So that is very much valid with regard to food. Similarly, with regard to sleep also. So the Dharma Shastras say that food and sleep habits have to be regulated. That is the first step in leading a disciplined life. This is true not only with regard to Dharma Shastra, from the point of view of Dharma Shastra, it is very, very important from the point of view of achieving anything. So, for example, if you have to become a beauty queen, you want to win beauty peasants, the young women, their food habits and sleep habits are highly regulated. If you want to achieve something in the physical realm, like you want to become a Wimbledon champion or champion in tennis or football or any sport for that matter, your food habits are highly regulated. Or if you want to become a champion in athletics, where 100 meters running race, as they used to call it. So in all these things, the food habits are highly regulated to how much protein you should take, how much carbohydrates you should take, what all you should avoid, etc. But the most important aspect of a human being is spiritual evolution. And for spiritual evolution also, the food is highly regulated. Then today, we come across terms like binge eating, where people are even to eat more of these snacks, and also, especially in Western countries. And today, India also has become 99% westernized. So you have what is called as fast food and things like that, which are totally like pizzas, burgers, etc., which are totally against the principles of Ayurveda, because they are all contain viruddhaharas, that is mutually opposed foods, not from the point of view of any Dharma Shastra or any ethical aspect, ethical or moral aspect, purely from the point of view of the science of food itself. they have all the mutually opposing gradients, which takes a great toll on the health of the person in the long run. I will not go into that point. So that way, regulation of food is very, very, very important. So I will just commence in the slideshow. So I think we had seen these things. In case you have not seen, I will just repeat these things. So one very important and interesting aspect of the Indian knowledge systems is all the Indian knowledge systems are interconnected. So they are not standalone systems. So each aspect has its roots in different branches of knowledge. So this slide demonstrates how food is dealt with in yoga, food is dealt with in Ayurveda, food is dealt with in Dharma Shastra, and food is dealt with in Nyaya Shastra. And once again, why or what aspect does each Shastra convey with regard to food? So when you take the aspect of the branch of yoga, yoga deals with food because food is directly responsible factor as far as spiritual evolution is concerned. Then when you take the branch of Ayurveda, it contains abundant amount of information about food from the point of view of health and wellness. Then Dharma Shastra also has a great deal of information about food because Dharma Shastra is concerned about the Punya and Papa. And I will not translate the word Punya and Papa. We all understand what it is. And then Nyaya Shastra. So Nyaya Shastra also is concerned about food because it concerns human values and ethics. So this way, you can see that the Indian knowledge systems are not only highly structured, they are mutually connected in a complementary and supplementary manner. So Dharma Shastra complements Nyaya Shastra, Nyaya Shastra complements Dharma Shastra. Yoga and Ayurveda are supposed to be two sides of the same coin. So without yoga, there is no Ayurveda, and without Ayurveda, there is no yoga. This is what experts who know both these fields well have proclaimed. So this is very, 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 very much true with regard to the very mundane but crucial, very important aspect of food. So I will first mention Ayurveda and then I will come to yoga. So there is a very interesting anecdote. So the versions, there are 2 or 3 different versions in this regard. But the message is more important rather than the version. All the versions are, of course, very much interesting to listen to. So once Charakacharya, who is the pioneers of Ayurveda, who has actually written the Charaka Samhita, which is one of the first and foremost treatises of Ayurveda. He was teaching, and there was a large group of students who were learning Ayurveda from him. So at that time, there was a bird which actually made a sound, kor, kor, kor. It's an imitation of how a bird actually makes a sound. So it was kor, kor, kor. Then Charakacharya said, can you identify what the bird is saying? Of course, in Ayurveda, you have Pakshi Ayurveda, you have Vriksha Ayurveda, you have Gaja Ayurveda, Hastya Ayurveda, Ashwa Ayurveda, etc. And Pashu Ayurveda also. That is a different field. I am not going to that now. So when one of his prime students are very intelligent students, said, yes, I can identify what it is. It says, Koruk, Kaha, Aruki. So we can actually equate what the word is asking us to Kaha, Aruk. Who is the person who is devoid of diseases? But this question is a very intriguing question. Because you can say, if this symptom is there, this is the disease. If this symptom is there, this is the disease. But how do you define a person who is devoid of diseases? Then Charakacharya asked, so please tell me what is the answer to this question. Kaha, who is a person who is devoid of disease? So, most of the students could not answer the question. Then immediately, the great Acharya Vagbhata, who has written the Ashtanga Sangraha, it is also one of the most premier works of Ayurveda. He said, Hita bhuk, vita bhuk, krita chankramana, kramena vamashena. So. A very cursory aspect in this regard is whether it is Ayurveda, whether it is Dharma Shastra, whether it is Niti Shastra, whether it is Yoga Shastra, all the Shastras are given to us or presented to us in the form of poetry, Sanskrit poetry. So when it is presented in the form of poetry, it becomes so soothing to the mind and so attractive. And also it plays a very important role in our remembering these things very easily. So once again, from the point of view of mnemonics, how this is very important. Probably I can give 2 lectures on this aspect, because how all the literature, especially the Purana literature, Itihasa literature, Ayurveda literature. Of course, in Ayurveda, in Charaka and Vagbhata, you have several prose sections also in the middle. But about 70 to 80% of literature is in the form of poetry. So there are so many aspects that are associated. I will not go into that detail. But it is to be remembered that it is very important from the point of view of mnemonics. And when we come to it, when you look at it from the point of view of children's education, when today I will mention it in 2 or 3 sentences and go ahead with the current topic, because I don't want to digress too much. Today, many people ask me, what is the contribution of Sanskrit, or what are the guidelines given in our tradition with regard to children's education? Because we talk about Montessori school, that method, this method, etc. Nobody knows about our methods. So even I was taught, Baba, black sheep, have you any youth? Yes, sir, yes, sir. Does this have any real meaning? Or twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the sky, so like a diamond in the sky. But when we were young, we were also taught the tradition where it says, Mangana, Mangana, Mantare, Madhavo, Madhavam, Madhavam, Chantare, Nangana. So these are the rhymes that were taught in those days. Of course, now one of my friends, Mr. Venkat Subramanian, has prepared all the Shishugitani in Sanskrit, and he has put it on Vyoma Sanskrit Pathshala. All of you can access it free of cost. So whatever we taught, we were taught. So there are all these have ethics in them, ethics embedded in them. So the Sanskrit rhymes also, which were taught to young children, have lots of ethics embedded in them. So even when a person becomes 50 years or 60 years or 70 years old, he will be able to remember them. And then he will realize, for example, now at the age of 50, I am realizing the meaning of several of the shlokas that I was taught when I was young. Oh, this has such a profound meaning. That's what it is. So Hitabhuk, the answer given was Hitabhuk, Vitabhuk, Tritachak Kramanaha, Kramena Vamashayanaha, Soru. So this half shloka summarizes the philosophy of food according to Ayurveda. So what are the two most important principles that are to be followed while taking food? Hita bhuk, mita bhuk. So what is hita? Hita is that which is beneficial. So once again, this has a huge amount of information that is encapsulated in the word hita. Because it says matra, rashniya, in the Ayurveda, there is a huge chapter on how food is to be taken, how much is to be taken, etc. Nati dhrutamashita, nati vilambitamashita. How much, at what pace should we take food, the intake of food. So some people eat too fast, some people eat too slow. Both of them are prohibited. Then matravadashniyat, atyushtamashniyyat, atishitamashniyat. Probably about 20 different rules are mentioned in Ayurveda with regard to the methodology of the intake of the food. Then adal panne, ahasanne, tanmana, bhujjita. One should not talk while taking food. Of course, today we say, let us have a over lunch, we will discuss it over working. So if you want to achieve wellness from the point of view of Ayurveda, you should not do all this. So ajal panne, ahasanne. Some people start cutting jokes, etc., and make other people laugh. Of course, to some extent it might be good, but overall it's not done. Then it should not be too hot, it should not be too cold. So how one should actually do, there are a lot of information. I'm not going to that detail because that itself can constitute a big book. So Hita book, that which is, once again, there is one more aspect to it which I need to mention here. I cannot skip that topic. So Ayurveda prescribes food according to one's prakriti. So the prakriti analysis today, we call, there are what we call as Vata prakriti, Pitta prakriti and Kapha prakriti. Then Vata Pitta, Vata Kapha and Vata Pitta, Vata Kapha and Vata. So all sorts of combinations. And several organizations now have prepared questionnaires based on which the prakriti can be determined. So it's not the same food for every human being or every person in the family. Some amount of customization is needed, to put it in modern language. Then based on the dinacharya and ritacharya aspect also, food has to change. That I have already explained in one of my previous classes. So all these are encapsulated in the word Hita Bhuta, that which is good for that individual. So for some people, and even it differs on the place where you are located. For example, in North India, for example, I understand from my associates, the tamarind that we take predominantly in South India, that will not be digestible, easily digested when you are in places like Gujarat, that's what I understand. Or, for example, the tur dal that we use predominantly in South India, that cannot be digested easily in central India because of the weather conditions. So you have to take into account all these aspects and then only decide upon what type of food you should actually take. And then what should be the interval between food. This is very important. So today, once again, the theory has totally changed. Until 5 years or 2-3 years earlier, for those who had diabetes, doctors used to say every 2 hours you have to consume something. Because you should not have more food and there should not be more gap. So every 2 hours you should take small quantities of food. And you should never skip breakfast. especially for diabetic patients, because they have to take this insulin tablet or insulin injection. But today, and also they used to say you have to take what to call as chapatis, that is made with this maize. But today the concept has totally changed. They are telling, no, that's not correct because of some gluten content in the maize chapati. So you should have rice. If you are accustomed to rice, you take rice only. And frequent eating of small quantities is also not advisable. And if you skip breakfast, that is very much advisable. For example, we don't have breakfast at all in our house. We have lunch directly at afternoon. It is about 12:30, 1 o'clock. So now the theory is, it is good to skip breakfast. Have lunch directly or have brunch or whatever it is. So these are all, once again, they depend upon the person, age, and so many other factors, where they are living, what is their physical health condition, what is their mental health condition, and what triggers good thoughts in them. That is another huge field once again. If we have to get specific types of thoughts, so what they call as behavioral sciences, food is very, very important. So which rasa triggers what type of thought in your mind. There is a huge amount of information which is totally we are all ignorant about it. So there are 6 rasas as far as food is concerned, that is Madhura, Amla, Lavana, Katu, Kashaya, Tikta, Bheda. Sweet, sour, pungent, astringent, etc. I am not aware of the exact translation of these 6. So according to the Indian tradition, according to Dharma Shastra, so today you want to be in a very romantic mood, you can induce that mind in you, that type of mood in you, by taking certain foods. So today you want to, that is why on Vrata days, on Ekadashi or Amavasya or some Shivaratri or Ratha Saptami or Deepavali, these are all Vrata days. So they say these are the foods you have to consume. That means your mind, the spiritual inclination will come to your mind automatically by consuming that food. Or it should come. Today we have lost our sensitivity totally to these things. So we don't feel anything at all. So these shadrasas of ahara are very important as far as controlling your mood is concerned. So your mood can automatically be controlled by means of the customized food that should be taken on a particular day. And as we all know, onion and garlic are highly tamasic in nature. So they induce totally tamasic thoughts. That is why ahara as food, as I mentioned, food as a food, onion and garlic are totally prohibited. They are permitted only as a medicine. So similarly, too much of what we call karam, too much of puli, that is too much of whatever those terms in English, I don't readily recall them. So all these things are covered under the aspect of Hita Bhuk. Then you come to Mita Bhuk. So it doesn't say how much you should consume, it says Mita Bhuk. So according to Ayurveda, there is a very beautiful shloka. How much food is to be consumed by a person? So Ayurveda says you consume half of what your stomach can take. Then 1/4 of it should be filled with water, and then 1/4 of it should be left vacant. This will aid the process of digestion in a very easy way. So that is why it is said as Mita. Then, as I mentioned in Dharma Shastra, it is mentioned as how much. So it says Ashtau Grasaha Muner Bhaksha. Shodasha Vanaprasthasya Dvatrimshattu Grihasthasya Amitam Brahmachari. So, Ashtau Grasaha Muni, if there is a sannyas, a person who has taken sannyasa, for him he has to take 8 grasa. So, 1 grasa is 1 handful. So, he has to measure it properly and say, okay, 8 grasas, not more than that. Because he is a person who should always be engaged in meditation. Pranava Dhyana is what is ordained for sannyasis. So he should not take, of course, I don't know how many sannyasis may follow this subject. That's a different issue. But Ashtau Grasa Muner Bhakshya. Then in case of a Vanaprastha, a person who is past the Grihastha Dharma and who is probably about 55, 60 years old, he should consume 16 handfuls of food. As far as a Grihastha is concerned, so he will be engaged in household activities as well as he has to follow the Grihastha Dharma. For him, Dvatrimsha, 32 handfuls of food is prescribed. So how to measure that handful, that also is mentioned. So whether it is solid food, liquid food, semi-solid, those things are also mentioned in various Smriti works. But very, very interesting. And then Avitam Brahmachari. As far as brahmacharis are concerned, they can have how much ever they want. There is no restriction. Because they are young and they are always engaged in learning. So that from the modern point of view also you can easily understand this. They burn the maximum amount of calories. Because they are engaged in intense study and they are actually having the brahmacharya vrata. I am sure you can all understand what it is. So, since they burn the huge number of calories by actually moving around and engaging in study, etc., there is no food, there is no restriction on the amount of food they take, have as an intake. But for Grihasthas, according to their dharma, it is restricted to 30. For Vanaprasthas, it becomes less. For Sannyasins, it becomes even less. Because both intake and excretion should be at minimal for Sannyasis. That is what the Yoga Shastra says. As I mentioned, all the Shastras have a say as far as the rules of food are concerned. So all these things are covered under the word Vita Bhuta. Then Krita Chankramana. After having food, don't become sedentary. Move around for some time. Whether it is morning or whether it is evening. In the Vita book, we also have the several vratas like Krishna Chandrayana, they say. Shankara Bhagavad Pada also says Vratani Krishna Chandrayana. So several food related vratas are prescribed in Dharma Shastras, like it says Krishna Chandrayana, etc. So Chandrayana is a vrata. For example, there are several kalpas, several methods. One method is you start on a particular day, prescribed day, you start with 1 kabala or 1 grasa. You go on increasing it to 48, and then once again, that is first day 1 grasa, second day 2 grasas, third day 3 grasas, like that, up to 48, and then while you go ascending order, and then you go into descending order. These vratas have specific effects on the human body and mind. This is very important to be noted. So then you have Shaka Vrata, you have Nati Vrata, you have Kshira Vrata. All these are based on food. Or these are the food-based vratas, which have religious, spiritual, and physical and mental implications. That means they have an effect on your mind, they have an effect on your body. Then they have a particular effect on the punya and papa, etc. Because vratas are done as in the form of prayashchittas, as atonements for certain sins that we may have knowingly or unknowingly committed. Because the sins that exist in us can be rid by means of food also. That is why it says in Dharma Shastra, it says, Yat tvagasti gatam papam dehe tishtati mamake prashanam panchagavyasya haratyagiriva indhanam. So while explaining the effects of Panchagavya, that is the 5 products of the cow, that is Gomaya and Gomutra, cow dung and cow urine. Cow urine, of course, today universally the preventive and curative aspects of the urine of the traditional Indian cow breeds. It has to be marked, highlighted. Traditional Indian cow breeds is universally known, and scientific evidence has already come to prove the preventive and curative aspects of cow urine. And once again, Ayurveda has a huge amount of information on the ghee that is extracted from the milk of the cow, and also curds. So these are the 5 elements that constitute Panchagavya. 5 cow-related products are 5 products derived from the milk and also the body of this. So we are Gavya, that comes from the cow. Traditional Indian cow breeds, that has to be highlighted. So what it says, Yate tvagasti gatam papa. The papa or the sin that resides not only in the tvak or the skin, that is on the surface, but also asti gatam papa, the sin that resides in the bones. All these, dehe tishtati mamake prashanam panchagavyasya. So the consumption of Panchagavya will rid them, just like Dahat Yagniriva Indhanam, just like the fire that consumes the fuel and reduces it to ashes. Similarly, the Panchagavya reduces all the papas, that all the sins that exist in the, not only on the surface, but the innermost portions of the body, including the bones. So how it happens? Is there any proof? Can we prove it? Is a big question. But one of the important aspects of consumption of Panchagavya and such other foods is atonement, what we call as prayashchitta in Sanskrit. So ultimately, Trita Chankramanaha. Trita Chankramanaha means you have to move around for some time after having food. And then Kramena Vabashaya. So after having food and after having moved around for some time, you should sleep to your left. So once again, this is proven by science today, because when you are sleeping towards your left or facing, you lie down like this, not like this. What happens? It is mentioned that the bile juice and the other juices, the flow of the juices is assisted when you sleep towards your left. So after food, you are not supposed to sleep towards your right. You should sleep towards your left only. So Vagbhatacharya gave this. So when the question was asked in the form of a cryptic shloka type of a text, Koruk, Koruk, Koruk. He mentioned it as Hitabuk. See how beautifully he has summarized. So one who knows his food will not have disease. This is what our Shastras say. In Kannada also there is a similar saying which says, Ahara Bandavanike Rogamilla. One who knows what type of food is to be consumed will not have disease. Because food is his medicine. Of course, they say today medicine has become our food, because Many people whom I have seen, they consume about 30 to 40 tablets a week. So tablets have become his food. So food intake is small, medicine intake is so big. So we say medicine has become his food. But it should be the other way around. I say food is your medicine. So whatever imbalance is there in the body can be cured by means of food itself. By including or inducting the ingredient that is required for the purpose. So ultimately what is true is Hita book. So all these things can be brought under the Hita book and Mita book. So Hita book, Mita book, Tritachang Kramana, Kramena Vamashena, so. So this actually summarizes the view of food with regard to, from the point of view of Ayurveda. From the point of view of yoga, what is mentioned? I have already mentioned about the Satvikahara, Rajasahara, and Tamasahara. I will not repeat them. In case you want more information, I will definitely let you know. So, very important is Natyashnatastu yogosti. Nachaikanta manashnata. So, very beautifully, Lord Krishna summarizes what is the view of yoga with regard to food. He says yoga doesn't mean, once again, yoga is not limited to asana and pranayama, but it includes asana and pranayama. This is also another very important point we noted, because he has gone to perform yoga. So that means bending our body in different postures and then also regulating our breath. Because that is what we have limited yoga to today. There is asana and pranayama, but what we are doing, the asanas that we practice if we are practicing, and pranayama that we practice if we are practicing, is only the tip of the iceberg, or 1% that we do with the intention of achieving physical wellness only, or to some extent mental wellness. But that is not the aim of yoga. That is only a byproduct of yoga. But people get enamored about it because, especially the Westerners, they are some Westerners are highly disciplined in some areas which they pursue. I'm sure we all agree upon that. So when they perform Shirshasana on the edge of a cliff, I have seen several Westerners do it. Many of them are my students. They say, oh, wonderful, great achievement. Of course, yes, we agree, but that is not the aim of yoga. The aim of yoga is self-realization. That is why you have 8 limbs. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama. I may ask many of my Western friends or students, what about the practice of Yama? Asana you practice for 4 hours. Pranayama you do for 2 hours. What about Yama and Niyama? Are you familiar? What are you doing in that? Because Yama and Niyama are lifestyle aspects. They are not like Asana and Pranayama which you do for 2 hours or 3 hours or 1 hour. Because ahimsa, asteya, parigraha, etc. Ahimsa is non-violence. You should not afflict any other being. So, do you practice ahimsa for half an hour or 1 hour only? No. 24 hours, 365 days, ahimsa has to be practiced. Asteya, not hankering for taking others, objects belonging to others without their knowledge. Do you practice it only for half an hour? They are lifestyle aspects. Similarly, satya, truthfulness. So all these are lifestyle aspects. Similarly, niyama also. Tapasvadhyaya, Ishvara pranidhanaya niyamaha, shaucha santosha, tapasvadhyaya, Ishvara pranidhanaya. Shaucha, maintaining cleanliness of body, mind, etc. Santosha, maintaining a very balanced, happy demeanor. So, do you do this only for half an hour or 1 hour or 2 hours? No. You have to always do it. Keep on doing it for a long, long, long time until you leave. Even if a person has attained sense-free realization, he will continue to do these things. Or it will automatically come to him involuntarily. He can never hurt others. So this is all what yoga is about. So this yoga will come to a person who is maintaining total balance of food and sleep. So my Acharya very beautifully used to say, what does yoga mean? It is neither some yoga nor yoga, it should be yoga. This is a very, very important sentence. Everybody has to know. That is, it should neither be some yoga nor yoga. Should not be too much attached, neither you should desist from it. So no too much food, no desisting from food. Not too much sleep, no desisting from sleep. So it says, na atyashnatastu atyashna. So in the Vedas, we have a sukta. Atyashanadati panadhyatya ugrat pratigrahati tanne varuno raja panina ahyavamarishatu. So many times when payasam is very, very tasty, we consume more payasam. Atipana. Or if some dish is very, very tasty, we can consume more. So then in the Vedas, we have the Prayashchitta Suktas, the Prayashchitta Mantras. It says Atyashanati, Atipanati, Etcha Ugrat Pratigrahati. So we pray to Lord Varuna that he rid us of the sins occurring due to having more food than what is to be taken. So na atiswapnashirasya. If the person sleeps too much, he cannot have spiritual evolution. Similarly, if he doesn't sleep at all today, what happens? Most of us are devoid of sleep because they are attached to gadgets and so many other problems. So ultimately, he says, Yukta ahara viharasya, Yukta cheshtasya karmasi. Everything should be totally balanced. Or temperate, or whatever you would like to use. Yukta swapna avamodasya yogo bhavati. So very beautifully, very succinctly, the aspects of food and sleep are summarized in Bhagavad Gita as far as food is concerned. Then we have food in Ayurveda and food we have called Dharma Shastra and food and Nyaya Shastra and food. This we will cover in the next lecture and then move forward. So with these words, I conclude today's talk, and as usual, we can have a question and answer session.
Thank you, Acharya. So any questions, Srinivasan or Subramania Dikshit?
Yes, Mahodaya, I have a question. As always, Alwar Mahodaya, thank you for the insightful session. I had two parts. One is there are some people who are called Agnihotris, or they only cook for themselves and they don't eat anything prepared by others, who are following Anushtanas and stuff like that.
Swayambaka.
Swayambaka. Yeah, Swayambaka, correct. I wanted to get your point of view on that. And also the other part is lately there's people are following intermittent fasting where they don't eat for 18 hours and then they have a window where they consume whatever and so on and so forth. So what is the right balance? Because everything in moderation is the absolute right thing to do, like you pointed out. Because life as a journey, we are always seeking, like seeking knowledge, seeking wealth, seeking spirituality, seeking peace in general. So what's the right mix?
Very good question. The first answer to the first question is, so the food which is prepared by persons having certain habits, they can affect our spiritual progress.
Mm-hmm.
So this is well established in a story by Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So so people may say it is subjective. How can you objectively decide? So is there any mechanism to test, etc.? So these are all issues that are beyond the realm of science that we have to understand. Because today, if you ask for some evidence, what is the evidence, etc., you may not be able to give any scientific evidence or what science really accepts as evidence. So once a particular food is served to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, as soon as he takes it in his hand, he says, who has cooked this? I think the person who has cooked this food, his character is not bad. So what happens is the food actually affects the person, the dharma of the person who cooks is imprinted in the food. That is the right word, I think. So even in the Vaishnava tradition, Shaiva traditions, etc. So Vaishnavas, they say, for example, in our tradition is there, that is by non-Vaishnavas should not be consumed. Or in Shaiva tradition, they may say, who are not Shaivas, we don't consume that. We call it as acharam or something like that. That is done not from this point of view, but when a person is proceeding, of course, today we have to put a rider for all the sentences. Is it valid? It may not be valid. So for a person who is proceeding in the Vaishnava path, so you have two paths, the Shaiva path and Vaishnava path. Of course, Shankaracharya advocated the fivefold path, that is Shakya, Saura, Gana, Patya, etc. Which we are following today. Does it really qualify to be called as a path, etc.? Just 1 minute. Just wait 1 minute, please. So when a person is engaged in the Vaishnava path, if he is really engaged in that, then if the food is cooked by non-Vaishnavas, then it may affect his spiritual progress. Similarly, if a person is engaged in the Shaiva path, it is the Shaiva Marga, as we call it, then we call it as Antardharma. These are all very crucial words, which may not be known to people at large. So the Antardharma gets affected. Even many times I feel, or even you people may have experienced, if you have food in certain places, you will not feel very comfortable. It may be done with a very hygienic thing. They may be wearing caps, they may be wearing gloves and all those things. But someday you may feel, oh, today the food I consume is not clean, I think. Like that, you will have some inclination. So for maintaining that purity of your thoughts, purity of your mind, etc., food should be prepared only by those people who are pure in thought, pure in mind, etc. So why earlier people would not have food in the hotels? Or even today, it might be, you cannot avoid it, unavoidable. But what is the intention? Suppose why if a food cooked by the mother is so valuable, or a devoted wife. The food cooked by mother is so valuable because the mother cooks with the intention of actually, she says, let this food nourish my children. So she has a very pure intention without any other commercial aspects in mind. Like when so a person might have quarreled with somebody and in the hotel, or he might be many times in Indian hotels we see they consume alcohol because they have to. I know many people who have complained to me that the food that is prepared in the chowdhuries, they have drunk and come what to do in the morning itself, how to eat that food that a drug card has prepared. We have those who consume, they have no other option. But that intention with which the food is prepared is.
And is that the same reason where, like ladies, when they are not feeling well once a month, they don't?
Yeah, they are having the periods. Today they say it's taboo or things like that. They should not prepare. That is very, very dangerous because this menstruation problem, that is very, there is already evidence to prove that they should not cook at those times. It will have a very highly detrimental effect. So they are avoided it. Today there is scientific evidence, but nobody believes them, or they say, no, we will not believe, or we won't follow these things. So from that point of view, the intention with which they prepare, that is why in the earlier traditions, so they, while preparing the food, they will chant certain shlokas. So in the Vaishnava tradition, they will chant Tirupavai while preparing the food. Similarly, they will chant the shlokas of Bhagavatam and other things while they prepare food. So the imprint of the mind of the preparer will be there on the food. That can be felt in due course. That is the answer to the first question. So what is the second question?
The intermittent fasting thing, that's...
Intermittent fasting is once again a big topic. So that we'll discuss about it.
Kamyata, I took more time than...
No. But these things are very interesting. So even I don't feel bad or that time has been taken, because people need to know about these things and they should believe also. Unless you believe, you cannot say there is the proof or scientific evidence, etc. And our life itself depends on our belief.
Yeah, as you said, the intention behind all these things, rather than running away from, these are hard rules, but the spirit behind all these rules, like you said, when they think about Vishnu and before the Vaishnava progression can happen, something similar to that, right? So that's a beautiful takeaway that we can have for today. I think we'll wrap up for today. Thank you very much, Alwarji, and we'll meet again on April 23rd, 7 o'clock.
Soma sir has not switched on his camera because he was generally would switch on his camera.
I know today I'm not able to switch on the camera. I'm having some trouble on that. But definitely I'm sitting down and enjoying that. Absolutely. And I also like the way you talked about the Bhagavad Gita shloka, talking about you have to have balance. You cannot have somebody who's sleeping fully or not at all sleeping. And he also calls Arjuna Kutakeksha together with that. Right? So it is a question of saying you have to have a balance in everything. You can't always not sleep at all, won't work. But times when you have to, you can do that. It's such a nice, positive thing. Very enjoyable. As usual, very, very informative. The idea about who's sick is in one sloka, how do you get it is amazing. I think we will look forward and take that up, and it's a nice thing to have. And also your 8, 16, 32, handfuls for each one of the cases. It just tells that it's not just four ways of living, but four just types of man goes through. But it's also each case, how long, how much do they eat, what do they do? Everything is prescribed. I think that's why I think the Dharma Shastra aspect has to be learned from somebody rather than just from a textbook, so that nuances are understood. Thank you so much, Mahodaya. I'm enjoying that as usual. Thank you.
It's not, it's the knowledge of our ancient sages, not mine. So I am only just sharing that knowledge what they have given. So credit should go to them only.
Yeah, enjoying it. Thank you.
Coming from you is a very great thing, Acharya. So I think that just a basic question on when Soma mentioned about it, I wrote it down. So that's basically 8 handfuls per day, right? Or 8 handfuls. Okay, that's all. Okay. So I'll
not before food or after food, as somebody says. 8 ounces before food or 8 ounces after food.
Right.
That was a joke in a Tamil film also, because they said immediately the person
This is nice. No, but it's very possible. I mean, we know even as recently the Sringeri Acharya, Bharati had only Pavakai for the whole thing. I mean, so it's doable, and it's really a very it's a different way of living for us. We are not used to it.
And we also have heard from Nyaya Acharya. Kanchi Mahaperiyal used to fast for 8 days, 10 days, 12 days at a stretch. So that's all a huge achievement. Ordinary people cannot do it.
Correct.
Both Mauna and Upvasa he used to do for 8 days, 10 days, 12 days. Up to 12 days he used to do. That's what I have.
Very true.
So we'll wrap up with the concluding prayer song. So.
मंगलम गुरु श्री चंद्रमौलीश्वर के, शक्ति गणपति शारदाम्बिके शंकराचार्यर के, शक्ति गणपति महागणपति शारदाम्बिके के, काल भैरवर के, काली दुर्गई के, वीर धीर शूर हनुम मारुति चरणतिर्के, मल्लिकार्जुनर के, चल्व जनार्दनर के, अंबा भवानी कंबद गणपति चंडी चामुंडी के, श्री कृष्ण भगवान के, श्री चक्रवासिनी के, सीता राम लक्ष्मण सहित मारुति चरणतिर्के, विद्यारण्यर के, विद्याशंकर के, वागीश्वरी के, वज्रदेग गरुड़ आंजनेयर के, श्रीवल्ली देव सेना समेत सुब्रह्मण्यर के, तुंगभद्रै के, श्रृंगनिवासिनी के, श्रृंगेरी पुरिயில் நிலைத்திருக்கும் எங்கள் சாரதாம்பிகைக்கே, सच्चिदानंद शिव अभिनव नृसिंह भारती के, श्री चंद्रशेखर भारती गुरु सार्वभौमर के, श्री चंद्रशेखर भारती गुरु विद्यातीर्थर के, श्री चंद्रशेखर भारती गुरु भारती तीर्थर के, श्री चंद्रशेखर भारती गुरु विदुशेखर भारती के, मंगलम गुरु श्री चंद्रमौलीश्वर के, शक्ति गणपति शारदाम्बिके शंकराचार्यर के, शक्ति சக்தி கணபதி மகாகணபதி சாரதாம்பிகைக்கே ஸ்ருங்கேரி புரியில் நிறைந்திருக்கும் எங்கள் சாரதாம்பிகைக்கே.
Thank you, everyone. We'll meet next time.